What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another retro Yu-Gi-Oh video, another TP1 format video, and I'm really excited for today's video because I think the deck I'm showing off is really sick and very unique to this format. And that's because the deck we're playing is Umi Beatdown, which has very, very interesting interactions with one of the biggest and most iconic cards from this format, Mechanical Chaser. But before we dive in to the deck breakdown and get at what the main strategy of this Umi Beatdown deck really is, if you enjoy this sort of retro Yu-Gi-Oh content, then please consider subscribing to my channel. We are almost at 330 subscribers at the time of recording. It would be really cool if we're able to get to 400 in the month of January. I think that would be really awesome. And also, I'm about to go into a brand new format, which I will be calling MRL format, which is just this format with the addition of the cards from Magic Rulers. So I'm expecting that to be a crazy time, as Magic Ruler introduces a lot of new strategies and a lot of very game warping cards. So it should be a fun time. Definitely subscribe so you can keep up to date on that. And of course, if you like the video, as always, leave a like down below. But now that that's out of the way, let's dive into why exactly we're playing Umi Beatdown here. Initially, this wasn't even a deck that was on my radar when covering the format, but in the comments of one of my videos, the commenter Kakori actually pointed out that Umi drops the attack of Mechanical Chaser down by 200, in addition to buffing things like 7-colored fish. So we can take advantage of that fact, playing an Umi Beatdown deck that's more focusing on debuffing our opponent's Premier Beater than buffing ours. So we're playing 2 Umi here to hopefully have on field as much as possible to decrease our opponent's Mechanical Chaser's attacks. And we're playing 6 1800 beaters here to hopefully take advantage of that. 7-colored fish can also gain 200 attack from Umi, which is nice, but the main reason it's in here is an 1800 beater that can beat over a 1650 Mechanical Chaser. In addition, we also have 3 Thunder Dragon, which can benefit from the buff that Umi gives, because Umi does say Thunder as well as Fish monsters. So if you do manage to bring out a Thunder Dragon, that can also beat over Mechanical Chaser, which is a nice option to have. The Thunder Dragons are also in here to facilitate plays with things like Magic Jammer, but we'll get to that later when we cover the trap cards. For our other monsters, we of course have the 4 Recruiters, 2 Sangan, 2 Witch of the Black Forest, incredibly good at searching out pretty much any piece of your deck that you'll need. We have 3 2K Defenders to wall up a bit when we're not in a favored game state. You won't always draw Umi, and if you don't have Umi, then your beaters don't actually contest the Mechanical Chasers, which can put you in a pretty tough spot. So these are very important for giving you time to draw into the pieces you need to actually set up your Umi and get aggressive. We also have 1 Masked Sorcerer to get a bit of card advantage in when our opponent does have an empty board, which hopefully they will a lot if we're able to clear their Mechanical Chasers and the like. This can also draw us 1 step closer to the Umis, which I think is very important. And it can be searched out by Sangan or Witch if we need it. We also have 2 Magician of Faith. This is great at recycling our Power 5 limited spells, but it can also be used to recycle Umis, which is very important as Heavy Storm is a very big card in this format and can potentially clear away our Umis. So it's a very versatile card and a very important card to have in this deck. And lastly, we have 1 Cannon Soldier. This is also debuffed by Umi as it is a machine, but the more important reason to have this in the deck is because it can clean up at the end of the game. If we dropped our opponent down to a very low life point threshold, we can bring out a Cannon Soldier and potentially finish them off. So very, very good card in pretty much any deck in this format, but especially here. For the spells, we of course have the Power 5 limited spells, Change of Heart, Dark Hole, Monster Reborn, Pot of Greed, and Raigeki, all incredibly strong, both in this deck and in pretty much any other deck in the format. We have 3 Fisher to act as even more removal. This deck can have a bit of difficulty getting over things like 2K Defenders, so these Fishers are quite necessary in my opinion. We also have 2 Swords of Revealing Light to stall our opponent for a bit longer so we can draw into things like our Umis, and also this flips up our opponent's monsters to potentially use a Fisher on them, which is very important. And lastly, for the spells, we have 2 Umis, which are basically the backbone of the deck. You want to have this up as much as possible, so that's why we're playing 2, as we do want to see this. Now, you could argue for playing 3, but I think 3 copies might just be a bit too bricky, but maybe I should just bite the bullet and put 3 in this deck. I don't know, 2 has worked out pretty decently for me in the games that I've played with this, as you may see later in this video, but I think in future iterations of this deck, you could definitely up this up to 3 if you wanted it. Bricking on Umis also isn't as bad if you have something like Magic Jammer, as it can both stop your opponent's heavy storms, which can stop your Umis, and it can also just be used to stop some Power 5 limited spells that your opponent might play to really put the game in their favor. So Magic Jammer is very important in this deck, and it does pair well with the Thunder Dragons and the Umi, as I mentioned. For our other traps, we have one Mirror Force, insane trap in this format if you manage to pull it off. And with Magic Jammer on your side of the field, hopefully it will be able to stick through heavy storms. Speaking of sticking through heavy storms, we also have one Robin Goblin. Very, very good card in this deck. It can stop Exodia potentially, but also, it will likely stick around due to your Magic Jammers. And if you're attacking over your opponent's weakened Mechanical Chasers, then you'll likely be inflicting some damage as well. So very, very good card in this sort of aggressive deck. And lastly, we have 3 Wuboku to protect both your monsters and your life points. You can also chain this to heavy if you really need to, which makes it a very, very important card in this format as well as in Critter format. Now, you may notice that we're not actually playing any trap holes in the main deck, and this is because we've got a bit more of an aggressive deck. So we want to be removing our opponent's threats like Mechanical Chaser through our Lodgins and 7-colored fishes, as opposed to through things like Trap Hole. So we don't really feel the need for them in the main deck. They are in the side deck, though, if we are playing a deck that's playing a bunch of Beat 6 like Jirai Gumo and the like, which can come up. Speaking of the side deck, let's go over the rest of it. We have 2 Jirai Gumos of our own if we need to get a bit more aggressive. We have 3 Man-Eater Bug if we need a bit of removal. We have 1 more Masked Sorcerer if we feel like we can lean a bit more heavily into the control side of things. We have 3 Muka Mukas as Umis can brick in hand, and these can get over your opponent's 2K defenders if we're having issues with that. We have 2 Heavy Storm. If we side out of the Umi Beatdown strategy, these can be good to bring in. Potentially we could surprise our opponent and clear away a ton of their back row and enable a big aggressive push. We also have 2 7 Tools of the Bandit. Very good against our opponent's counter trap strategies if they're playing Mass Negate or just a more controlling deck in general. These can counter a Solemn, which can be very strong. They can also just be used to ensure your late game aggressive pushes go through, stopping things like Mirror Force or Wuboku, which is very, very nice. And we are also playing a fusion deck here, but that's purely for the mind games. I think that pretty much every deck in this format should be playing a 15-card fusion deck, just to bluff that they might be on the fusion substitute deck, as that is the most popular deck in this format, and the main reason to play this format. But I think that this deck may be cool enough that this could be maybe another reason why you'd want to play TP1 format. But that's going to do it for the deck list here. Honestly, I'm just excited to dive into these games and show you all how this deck potentially performs. So, without further ado, let's just jump in. Okay, we've got a game against Koff1996, a regular guest on this channel. Always fun to have them on. We are playing Umi Beatdown, unclear what they're playing, but let's see how we do here. Looks like we will lose the rock, paper, scissors, so we will likely be going second here. And let's see. Yep, we are indeed going second. Oh, we draw Umi, top card of the deck. That's nice to see. We don't have any 1800 beaters to pair with it, but we've got a witch to search them out if we need it. So that's very fun to see. They're going to Pot of Greed to start off, set 2, pass back to us. We draw Robin Goblin, which is pretty good. We're just going to discard this Thunder Dragon, add 2 to hand. And then we don't really have any way to get aggressive here, so we'll just set the Witch of the Black Forest and a Robin Goblin. No need to activate Umi yet. We only really want to activate Umi when our opponent has Mechanical Chasers out. So we'll just set the Witch, pass back to them. They're going to flip up a Magician of Faith, which means that they will be able to get back the Pot of Greed, which is quite unfortunate here. They'll activate Swords as well to flip up our Witch, see what they're dealing with. And they will draw 2, bring out a Mechanical Chaser, and they'll be able to attack in here, clear the Witch. Quite unfortunate. We will just add a Sangan. As we don't really have a way to get aggressive here, we're not playing Heavy Storm, so we can't get through the Swords. And we just gotta hope that they don't have like a Robin Goblin of their own, and it looks like they don't, so they're just gonna poke in for a bit. And we draw Swords of our own, which is very nice. I think we could honestly activate it. We could just set the Sangan, search a 2K defender, set that next turn, and just keep passing. Looks like that's what we're going to do, actually. They're going to bring on a Masked Sorcerer, so we do get a bit punished for not playing the Swords, as they will be able to clear our Sangan and get an additional draw. They're just so up on card advantage at this point that it's really, really not looking good for us. But hopefully we can manage to pull something out here. They're going to set one pass back to us. Looks like they're not afraid of heavy. We're going to activate Pot of Greed. Maybe we draw a board clear or something. That would be pretty nice. Unfortunately, we do not. So we're just going to set the Giant Soldier, activate Swords, because first of all, they're not likely to Heavy Storm when they've got their own swords up. And also, we're at over 7 cards, so we have to play some things. And we're just going to set the Fisher, pass back to them. They're going to switch to the defense, set one, pass back to us. We draw a Witch of the Black Forest, so we're just going to set that, pass back to them. And Swords is finally gone, so we'll be able to get in here. They're going to flip up the Bug, pop our new set, which is very good for us. We'll be able to search with the Witch. And we're going to think about this for a bit because we could, in fact, get an 1800 beater to get over their Mechanical Chaser, which could be worth doing. It looks like that is indeed what we're going to do. We're going to get the Lodge in. And I think we get the Lodge in over the 7 colored here, maybe because we don't want to indicate that we're on Umi Beatdown, but I think seeing the Lodge in, they'll probably know we're on some sort of strategy that can deal with Mechanical Chasers, so it's a bit worrying. Looks like they're just going to switch Mass to attack, summon out Witch. Uh-oh, that's very worrying for us. Oh, they've got a Heavy Storm. That's really bad. Uh-oh. This could be a bit worrying here. So they do heavy away their own back row as well, but we've lost our Robin, we've lost our Fisher, and this is really bad. Luckily, we do have the 2K Defender here, so we will be able to protect ourselves for a bit, but they do have a Fisher, and now we have an empty board versus 5 monsters, and this is really rough. We're going to think about this for a bit, and we do have a way to clear the Mechanical Chaser now, which is pretty nice. So we're going to activate Umi, attack into the Mechanical Chaser, get rid of it, and we will have to pass back to them. Unfortunately, if they've got a Fisher, they can get in for a Mass Sorcerer attack here, but at least they can't easily clear the 7-colored fish unless they do have the Fisher, or Raigeki, I guess. They do have a Fisher, so they will be able to get in here. Going for 2,000. That's a fair amount of damage here, and we will be forced to take it. They will get a draw here, and we are in a really tough spot. We could potentially just set a Masked Sorcerer here, as that does play a bit around Trap Hole, and if they do have Trap Hole, then we're just leaving ourselves with an empty board state. And unfortunately, we do just go for the Lodge, and they do have Trap Hole. We'll set the Woboku, pass back to them, but this is looking really rough. We could potentially Woboku this, but I think we're saving the Woboku for when they make a big push later on. They will get a draw here, but they've already got 5 cards in hand, so it's not like they really need more cards or less cards. 1 extra card won't make too much of a difference, hopefully. We're just going to bring out a 7-colored fish, and that actually does stick the landing, which is very nice. We'll attack in to their Mass Sorcerer, deal 1,100, and pass back to them. And let's hope that we can survive this. Hope they don't have another Fisher. They're going to bring out a Mechanical Chaser, and that is fine by us. It can't clear the 7-colored fish, but it looks like they're just going to pass back to us. We are in a bit of a tricky spot, as I don't know why they'd summon the Mechanical Chaser out unless they had something like reinforcements or something. So we might have a bit of difficulty actually clearing that Mechanical Chaser. I think we have to go for it either way, although it's kind of iffy. Yeah, we're just going to go for it, hope that they're bluffing. And it looks like they are, so that's pretty good for us. We're going to set a Magician of Faith, just hoping that they don't have a Change of Heart here. And they do Fisher, and they've got Cannon Soldier. Oh, that's really bad here. They can potentially deal 2,000 damage to us, which drops it down to 500, which is extremely worrying. So let's just hope that they don't have like a Reborn or a Last Will, as that would just be the end of the game here. And they do have a Last Will, so that is the end of the game. Maybe this is a sign that we should have activated the Woboku earlier on the turn that they dealt 2,000 damage to us, as that really did drop us down into Cannon Soldier range, and it did let them draw deeper into their deck. But I don't know, it's kind of tough to say. Hindsight is 20/20, and I guess we just weren't thinking of it at the time. But it's always good to keep in mind that Cannon Soldier does exist, and is very well played in a lot of decks in this format. So you should always be playing around Cannon Soldier. We didn't that game, and we lost because of it. Now, you could argue that we would have lost anyways, as we were so down on card advantage. Our opponent was able to Pot of Greed multiple times and get in a bunch of Mass Sorcerer hits. So maybe we weren't destined to win that no matter what. But it would have at least given us a more of a fighting chance if we did Woboku that. So it is what it is, though. All we can do is go into game 2, thinking about that in mind. We keep the deck pretty much the same, as I want to see Umi pop off more. But maybe this is a mistake, as our opponent might have the read that we are still on Umi and just side out their mechanical features for things like Jiraiya and the like. Unclear, but we're just going to keep it in and see what they do. We're going to add 2 Thunder Dragons from deck to hand, first thing. Very nice. And we have Robin Goblin plus Giant Soldier of Stone, which is a big play going first. So we're just going to set that up. Pass back to our opponent. Hope they don't heavy right away. Looks like they're just going to set 2 and pass. We draw Raigeki, which could be pretty good. We're just going to bide our time a bit, though. Set the Sangan, pass back to them. They've got Raigeki. Uh-oh, that's kind of unfortunate. We're going to add a Giant Soldier to hand with the Sangan. And we draw Umi, which is pretty cool. So we could get aggressive with our 7-colored fish here. I don't really think we really need to. We're just going to set a Witch, pass back to them. I have the read that their set might be a Magician of Faith. And so they're going to flip it up next turn to get back the Raigeki. If they Raigeki the Witch, then we're not too torn up about that. It's a Man-Eater bug, though, so that will pop our set. Honestly, not too bad here. We're just going to add a Muka Muka. I guess we sided in some Muka Mukas. Unsure what we sided out there, but I think Muka Muka is a pretty good card to side in, as it can deal with a lot of big threats. They're just going to set 1, though, and pass and attack in with Man-Eater bug, and then pass back to us. We draw Raigeki, so we might just want to use it here and then potentially attack in. We're going to bring in the Muka Muka, and that will stick the landing. And so we're going to think about what potentially they've got, and we are just going to activate the Raigeki and snipe a Magician of Faith, which is very nice to see. We're going to flip out the Robin Goblin, try attacking in. They do have Waboku, though, and, you know, we're just going to pass back to them. Nothing else we can really do. We could have set the Mirror Force, but honestly, I feel like our Muka Muka is pretty secure at 2,400, and we don't want to bait a heavy even further. So they're just going to set 1, set another, pass back to us. We draw another Umi, so we're just going to bring out 7-colored fish, and we do feel safe activating the Umi now, as we do have the backup in hand. We're going to attack into their set with the Muka Muka. Unfortunately, it is the Magician of Faith, so they will be able to get back that Raigeki, and we just got to hope that we snipe it with the Robin Goblin. It is possible. We've got a 1 in 4 chance, so fingers crossed. Yes! There we go. Okay, our board is pretty secure now, so that's very nice. We pass back to them, but they bring out Jiraiya, which can get over anything on our board. Kind of unfortunate here. They will be able to get over the Muka Muka, and we just got to hope that they call the coin toss wrong. Hey, they did! Okay, so they're down to 3,000 now. I think that's a worthy sacrifice. Our Muka Muka for 3,000 of their life points. Feels pretty good. We're going to set the 7-colored fish, set a Mirror Force here, pass back to them. The reason why we did this is to bait them into attacking. And if they do attack, then we do have the 7-colored fish to flip up next turn and get in for a ton of damage. But they've got Heavy Storm, so they do clear our board away. And they will summon out Witch, attack into our 7-colored fish. And they'll call heads. Let's see if they get it wrong again. They unfortunately call it right. And they will just blind attack into our set. You know, that's a very bold play. It could have been a Mass Sorcerer or the Giant Soldier of Stone that we searched off of Sangan earlier. But luckily they do have the read correctly that it is a 7-colored fish. So it will die and we'll lose a big offensive threat here. Very unfortunate. We do have Pot of Greed to potentially draw into something that can help. Lodgin is okay, but not the best. We can clear the Witch. They'll get a Magician of Faith with that, which is very worrying, as they'll probably be able to get something like the Raigeki engrave to clear away our aggressive threats. But, you know, this is kind of the best that we got to do, as that Jiraiya is very annoying, and we don't really have a way to get over it. So we're just going to set a Magic Jammer, activate Umi to protect against any mechanical chasers that they may have, and then pass back to our opponent. They're just going to set 1 and pass back to us. Looks like they don't want to attack here and potentially have their life points yet again. But Change of Heart is a very good draw here, and it could potentially just win us the game. We're going to Change of Heart target their set. I think that this is actually a mistake. I think we should have Change of Hearted targeting the Jiraiya. That would have more likely guaranteed game if they were playing around us having a Change of Heart and set a bluff instead of just a Magician of Faith. But we make the greedy play, and we do get rewarded for it, so we will just get back that Change of Heart. Change of Heart their Jiraiya, and that is the game. So we made a bit of a greedy play in the end there, and we made a greedy play earlier setting the 7-colored fish. but it all worked out for the best, and we managed to actually win game 2 somehow. Very, very cool to see the Umi deck in action here, even though our opponent didn't have any mechanical chasers. I feel like they probably sided out of mechanical chasers in game 3 as well, but for the content, we gotta keep Umi in all 3 games, so that's what we're going to do. In a normal game, you'd side out the Umis for something a bit better, maybe like 2 heavy storms, but we're going all in on the meme, so let's see how it does for us. Game 3, we will be going second here as we did win game 2. And this is a pretty good hand. We've opened up Thunder Dragon, I think, in all of the opening hands for this match, which is very nice to see. Just good at thinning out the deck a little bit. So we will get 2 Thunder Dragons to hand here. And we will just set the Witch, set the Robin Goblin, pass back to them. We could have set the Uboku, but honestly, we're not too worried about aggressive pressure right now. We'll save it for later when it's potentially more impactful. We draw a Fisher, which is pretty decent. We're going to tribute over the Witch for a Thunder Dragon here, and then try and get aggressive. So we're going to attack into their set. It's a Witch, so they're going to grab a Jiraigumo. Honestly, that's pretty fine by us. We've got Fisher for it next turn, and we can even reborn it back if we want. But we're just going to pass back to them. They're going to bring out a Dark Elf instead of a Jiraigumo. That makes sense. Dark Elf is better when you have more life points. So they're going to attack into the Thunder Dragon. We'll lose 4, but they'll have to take 1,000 in order to do that attack. Main 2, they're going to activate Swords Revealing Light, and that's kind of unfortunate as we don't really have a way to out that. We're just going to set the Muka Muka, though, and pass back to them. This Muka Muka is actually at 2,100 defense with 6 cards in hand. So if they don't bring out the Jiraigumo to attack over it, then we actually can deal battle damage if they attack him with the Dark Elf, and we can potentially discard a card with Robin Goblin. So we're feeling very good about that. They are just going to attack into it with the Dark Elf, so they're going to take 1,000 here. We're going to flip up the Robin Goblin, and if they've got Waboku, this is probably when they'd use it, but it looks like they don't, so they're going to take 100. Oh, okay. That was a bit iffy on the timing of when they flipped it up, but I'm just going to assume that they flipped it up beforehand, as they did know that they were attacking into something that probably had more defense than they had attack, as why else would we flip the Robin Goblin there? So, they will take 1,000 from the 7 tools, in addition to the 1,000 from the Dark Elf, and the 100 from the Muka Muka attack. And they do have Fisher for the Muka Muka in main 2, which is a bit unfortunate, but not the worst thing in the world. Sangan is great to sort of buy us more time, go a bit more defensive here. We'll set the Sangan, set the Waboku, pass back to them, and we draw a Maneater Bug. So that could be good for if they ever commit the Jiraigumo to board. We also have the Fishers in our hand that we could just use right now. But I think we want to whittle down their life points a little bit more with those Dark Elf attacks, so we don't feel the need to do it yet. We just discussed whether Swords has 1 turn left or 2 turns left. This is the last turn on Swords, I'm pretty sure. So we're just going to set a Maneater Bug, pass back to them. They haven't used up any board clear, so this could be a little bit risky if they've got Raigeki. But honestly, I'm willing to take that risk, as we do have the Sangan in field. That way we can get a monster to hand if they do destroy it. Looks like they're just going to set 1, though, and pass back to us. And we're feeling very good about this. We're going to check their graveyard, see what they've got. And we could potentially try sniping like a Magician of Faith. If their latest set is a Magician of Faith, that could be pretty good. We have the read that their previous set is a Recruiter, as if it was a Magician of Faith. We feel like they probably would have gotten back the Swords, but they didn't. So we feel like we can feel pretty safe in sniping their latest set here. Unfortunately, it is a Sangan, so we do get baited by that. And we will just flip up the Sangan, tribute over the Thunder Dragon here, Fisher away the Dark Elf, and try and get super aggressive. Unfortunately, their previous set was a Faith, not a Witch. And they will be able to get back a Swords Revealing Light from that. We will attack in with Sangan here to whittle them down by 1,000 more. But now they can stall us for a little bit longer, which is very unfortunate. They're just going to set 3, though, and pass back to us. So that's kind of nice. You know, they don't have any way to stall us yet. So we could just try and get more aggressive here, and that's what we're going to try and do. We're going to attack him with a Thunder Dragon. Unfortunately, it is a giant soldier, so we can't actually get over that. Main 2, though, we're going to set this Maneater Bug, switch Sangan to defense, and pass back to them. They're going to activate Swords, which will flip up our Maneater Bug, but we will be able to pop the giant soldier with that. They're going to bring out a Jiraigumo, and it's kind of unfortunate, but they will just pass. So honestly, we're not too torn up about that. if they do ever decide to attack in to one of our monsters, they could potentially have their life points and put themselves into cannon soldier range, which would be pretty nice. We draw a Mirror Force there, and that is a very good draw. We'll just set the Mirror Force, switch Thunder Dragon to defense mode, pass back to them. And it looks like they're going to check what we've each used up. They're going to reborn a monster here. And it looks like they're going to go for our Muka Muka, which will be at 1800 attack. They're just going to attack into the Thunder Dragon here, switching Jiragumo to defense. We could Mirror Force this, but honestly, I don't think that we really need to preserve our board too much. So we'll just let the Thunder Dragon die. And we draw another Sandgan, which is pretty good. We'll set that, pass back to them. And they're just going to keep attacking with the Muka. It's a Sandgan, so we'll be able to add a Witch to hand, which is pretty nice. And they're just going to pass back to us. Those swords are almost done, which feels pretty good. We're just going to set this Witch, pass back to them, and see what they do. They're going to bring out a Masked Sorcerer, and they're going to start attacking in some more. We will let the Witch die, add a Muka Muka to hand, and it looks like they're just going to attack into Maneater Bug, clear that out of the way as well. Set one, pass back to us. Magic Jammer is pretty good in case they've got a heavy. It can allow us to feel more comfortable committing more back row to board. We're going to summon out a Muka, and they're going to Solemn Judgment that, which means that they really can't deal with a big Muka Muka right now. So we're feeling very good about that. Honestly, we could reborn back the Muka and attack into the Sorcerer. That could be the way to go, given how desperate that play was. But it looks like we're just going to attack into the Masked Sorcerer here. They've got Waboku, so it's good that we didn't reborn there. And I think we're just going to set the Magic Jammer, pass back to them. If they make a big aggressive push here, we do have the Mirror Force for that. They will heavy this, and we will just Magic Jammer it, discarding a 7-colored fish. Unfortunately, they do have a Solemn for that, so they will be able to clear away our back row, which is very unfortunate, as Mirror Force would have been very, very nice on this board. But honestly, I think that we're still in a pretty good position, unless they can kill us this turn, which, to be frank, I don't really think they can. They've already used up a Reborn here, so they can't really special summon out any more monsters. They could Last Will, crash Masked Sorcerer into our Sandgan, bring out a Cannon Soldier, and attack in for a ton. But honestly, that doesn't quite put them there, as the Muka will drop down to 1500. They'll still have to clear these Sandgan, and all told, that won't be able to surmount the 7200 life points that we have. So even though they cleared our back row, I don't think they can actually win. Let's see what happens. They're just going to attack in with everything. So we will take 800 from that, and we will get a search here, so we're just going to grab a Magician of Faith. What do we have in grave? We have a Fisher. Kind of curious why I did that. They haven't used up a Change of Heart yet, so it's kind of weird. Maybe we want to use the Reborn next turn, and we want to get back the Reborn with Magician of Faith next turn. I don't know, that's kind of weird. They're going to attack in with everything, though. And they will call heads here. Let's see what they get. They get tails, so actually we just basically win the game here. Because next turn we can just bring out Cannon Soldier, tribute it off with priority to dodge around Trap Hole. And they will just switch Masked Sorcerer defense, set one, and pass. And that just is the end of the game. Even if they've got a Solemn Judgment for the Cannon Soldier, we've got a Monster Reborn to bring it back. So we will just summon out the Cannon Soldier, and with priority, use its effect. And that will be the end of the game. So Umi Beatdown took a match, which is really, really cool to say. Unfortunately, it didn't take the match where they actually had Mechanical Chasers in the deck, or if they had Mechanical Chasers in these last two games, they definitely didn't show. So maybe it's not as ringing an endorsement as it could have been for the deck, but it's still really cool to see a deck this jank actually take some games. And it does show that even if they're not on Mechanical Chaser, having just 6 1800 vanilla beaters can be very powerful at just keeping the aggressive pressure going. I think the deck does have some clear flaws. It can have difficulty dealing with certain threats, but I think that it's still a really fun and really jank option to play if you're looking for an interesting deck to play in this format that's not named Fusion Substitute. But that's going to do it for this video. What do you all think of Umi Beatdown? Do you think that it's better than I'm making it seem in this video? Do you think that it's much worse? Or do you think that I should completely change up how the deck is built and what the deck is focusing on to make it viable? Should I take out the Lodgins and put in things like Great Whites instead, for instance? Let me know down in the comments below. And until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.